I'm John Mason Smith, and this is Coffee Chats with JMS. I'm the CEO and co-founder of two businesses in the payroll and PEO space, HireWith and Astra Acquisitions, and I've been in the payroll industry for over a decade, including starting, running, and selling a payroll firm.
Good sales reps can flop, and bad sales reps can thrive. It sounds a little backwards, but I think everyone's experienced this either as a sales rep or as a hiring manager. Let's talk about why. Here's why your sales hire might flop and what to fix before blaming the rep. The example that I use a lot, and if you've ever talked to me for long enough, I might have said this to you. Imagine a used car salesman, the slimiest, skeeziest, worst salesperson ever to walk the planet. Put them in a Tesla dealership during the peak of the Tesla craze at the beginning of the company when there was a wait list 6 months long. That guy's going to hit his number, I guarantee you. Right? He's taking orders. He's not really doing sales. Take the best sales rep on the planet and try to get him to sell Cybertrucks right now. It's a little bit of a tougher job. I've heard this analogy a lot when talking about parenting, but I think it's apt here as well, which is, sometimes you can't control the behavior of your children. And instead what you're controlling is the environment that surrounds them. The analogy I think of is very much gardening. If you buy the most expensive bulbs and seeds and flowers from the store that you possibly can, and you put them in bad soil, they're just not going to thrive. And by the same token, you can take the healthiest plant on the planet and put it in my house and it'll be dead in a week. Like, no offense to my plant killing skills. Whenever I put a healthy plant in my house and it dies, I have a joke with Maria. I say, I guess that plant didn't have what it takes to thrive in this fast-paced environment. Let's talk about the most common hire that I see in my world at HireWith, which is you get these really rock star sales reps that have a history of overperforming at Paychex, at ADP, at Paylocity, Paycor, wherever. They had a successful track record. 6 years in a row at President's Club. And you drop them into an organization where this is their first sales hire. The employer then says, well, why the heck aren't they performing immediately with the same results that they did in the last 6 years at ADP and Paychex? And there's two factors to consider. One is pipeline, and the other is marketing support. If you think about the experience at Big Blue or Big Red, what you are doing is you are getting a telemarketing team that is constantly calling into your sales territory to set warm appointments. They're not very good, but they're at-bats that you otherwise wouldn't have. You've got marketing collateral. You've got newsletter campaigns targeting all these different business communities. You've got years-old relationships with CPA firms that have known, the Big Blue and Big Red guys for years. There's an innate trust because they have seen them. Just being around and seeing the same person over and over again inherently builds trust. If you knock on the door of a CPA firm and you say, hey, I'm JMS, and they say, I'm not interested, thanks for stopping by. No problem, here's my card. 1 month later, you show back up, got a box of cookies. Hey, JMS again, just wanted to let you know I exist. I know you're not ready, talk to me when you're ready. Give them a box of cookies, walk away. A month later, you call them. Hey, JMS, I know you don't want to talk yet. I just want to remind you I exist. Let me know when we can talk. If you do enough of these little interactions, eventually, they stop coldly greeting you, and the conversation becomes, hey, it's JMS, still not ready. And they begin to trust you, even though you've really done nothing to earn the trust. Trust by familiarity is a thing. And when you have an organization like the Big Blue, Big Red guys out there who have spent years sending sales reps into the field, that big logo at the top of their business card becomes a marker of trust. Your sales reps, especially if you are a newer sales organization or if you've not done outbound sales in your market before, they don't have that advantage. They don't have that trust sitting there waiting for them. They have to earn it. So there's a longer ramp up period for them to hit the ground running. Let's talk about the other things that these sales reps have when they're coming from the national sales organizations. If you're a sales rep at the national sales organizations, the ones that have perfected the way that the sales experience happens in the payroll and PEO industry, you're going to have a manager that is tracking KPIs on everything you do. You're going to have a formal CRM system. You're going to have maybe 4 to 6 weeks of sales training to get used to not how to sell necessarily, but how to sell in the style of that organization. You're going to have field rides with other reps that are more successful, that have done this before. You're going to have president's clubs that have a bunch of colleagues all cheering you on. You're going to have colleagues you can call and say, man, I am in a tough sales environment, and I know you are better at this than I am. And you're going to have marketing collateral. You're going to have drip marketing campaigns from corporate that are pinging all of your leads in CRM, that are sending out newsletters to all of your networking partners, that are giving you flyers and giving you a budget for lunches and company credit cards. There are a lot of things that are allowing that salesperson to have the tools to go out and build relationships. If instead you say, here's $100 and a company cell phone and a list of all the businesses I could find on, online, that rep could still have success. But I think it's important to consider patience. Here's the dirty truth. When I first got into payroll sales right out of college, I got hired by Paychex, and I did not know what I was doing. The best learning I did was riding around with the sales reps who were killing it and watching what they were doing. And after I left Paychex in their small business department, I went and I worked for Paylocity doing mid-market sales. And I was wildly underqualified. I mean, they didn't know that. I knew in my heart that I had never done this before, but it was the right time at the right place. When I got hired at Paylocity, after my small business Paychex life, they were looking for anyone with a pulse because they were growing so quickly. They effectively needed order takers at the very beginning of my sales career there. My territory was not some small area. It was the entire state. My sales process when I first started at Paylocity, it was not calling and convincing people. It was calling down a list of leads. I had 2,000 leads. I was calling down the list. Hey, do you want payroll? No? Okay. Do you want payroll? Yep. No? Okay. Do you want payroll? Oh, you're shopping it right now? It was just collecting the low-hanging fruit. And so on paper, I was a rock star sales rep. I was killing it. But if you drop me into that same job today, now that Paylocity is established and the market is more dense and their message has changed, well, I would have struggled if you dropped me into that same market today. When I started selling for Paylocity, at the time, they had the best tech on the block. They knew it, and they could show it to their customers. The demos were unbelievable. Now, their competitors have gotten wise and have built better technology, have built better go-to-market strategies, and the market is more competitive. Paylocity was an ankle biter. Nobody was thinking about them. But in the 8 years I was there, they went from being a no-name regional company effectively to being a national, publicly traded powerhouse that everyone was talking about. And you could see in real time over my career there, the sales processes of the competitors changing and adapting to directly counter my pitch. It's a really different thing when you walk into a sales meeting and for the first time, the person on the other side of the table says to you, oh, JMS, you work with Paylocity? Someone was just telling me about your company. It was your competitor. And they said awful things. They said bad things. Tell me why they're wrong. My first year at Paylocity, I walked in and the conversation was, do you have any clients that I can call as a reference? And the answer was, I do, but they're all 12 hours away. I've got no one in a million miles a year that's a client. At the end of it, I could point to 20 people around me that were clients, and they could all be client references. The point of all of this is that market dynamics change. And there's a myth that I think sales managers tell sales reps that there's no such thing as a bad sales territory. And we as business owners have to be honest with ourselves. There is such a thing as a bad sales environment, and there is such a thing as a good sales environment. And the good news is we can control it. This isn't about spending money. It's about thinking about the resources that that person's going to need to thrive. One way to control for this is in the hiring process. For example, you can choose if you've got a sales rep that's less experienced and another sales rep who's been selling for 20 years and is, a pro, which one of those is going to better fit into your organization? Something to think about, a salesperson with less experience is going to have more energy and drive to pick up the phone and call and make new relationships. The established salespeople are great at building on established relationships. They have spent years building their own network that hopefully they can bring with them and can be valuable to you. If you don't have the resources to crack the whip and follow a sales rep around and check in on them fairly regularly, than someone who is entrepreneurial, that just wants to be left alone and just close deals. That's going to be a much better fit. But by the same token, if you want to have control over your sales process, if you want to build a sales team, it's often better to get someone younger where you can craft the culture around that person and around, you can mold them to your culture and to your sales processes, because these established sales reps, as good as they are, they have baked in knowledge that's really hard to undo. If their go-to-market strategy is from 20 years at the big blue and big red companies out there, it's going to be really hard to change that mentality. That might be a good thing, but it might be a hard thing. So these are just a few things to think about when you're looking at building a garden for your sales reps to thrive in. If you want to talk more about this, I love talking with people who run payroll companies, who run PEOs, who are thinking about sales. If you're a salesperson, I love hearing from you too. Let's talk. If you're hiring, firing, buying payroll companies, selling payroll companies, go to johnmasonsmith.com. Let's talk. I want to hear your thoughts. Cheers.